Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Allevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. And in part brought to you by Performance Livestock Analytics, helping Ohio cattle producers run more efficient cattle operations with real-time data on feed, health, and performance, all in one easy-to-use app. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is issuing a second emergency commodity assistance program payment to eligible producers for the 2024 crop year. Of the authorized $10 billion in ECAP assistance, USDA's Farm Service Agency has already provided $8 billion in payments to eligible producers to mitigate the impacts of increased input cost and falling commodity prices. U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins made the announcement at the Ag Outlook Forum in Kansas City last week. As producers continue to face market volatility, these payments, along with the entire suite of supplemental disaster assistance programs, will help producers navigate market uncertainty, pay down debt for the 2024 crop year, and secure financing for the next crop year. Now, payments will automatically be made to eligible producers that have been approved for the ECAP applications who received the initial payment. Any application approved after September 25th of this year will receive one lump sum payment. Authorized by the American Relief Act of 25, these economic relief payments are based on planted and prevented planted crop acres for eligible commodities for the 2024 crop year. And as we look to tractor and combine sales, August 2025 sales of tractors and combines showed nearly no improvement from the same month a year ago. In its latest monthly sales report, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers revealed that all tractor sales fell 8.2% in August of 25 compared to August of 24. A closer look, however, showed tractor sales by category are slightly more mixed. Sales of tractors less than 40 horsepower were down 8.5% year over year in August. Sales of tractors 40 to 100 horsepower improved by 0.7% from August to August. From there, the news is less good. Sales of tractors of more than 100 horsepower were down 22.6% in August from a year ago. Four-wheel drive sales were down 47.5% from a year ago in August. Now, combine sales remain where they have been, sharply down. August sales were down 34.6% compared to a year ago. Year to date, August through August, all tractor sales are down 9.6%, and combine sales were down 42.1%, again compared to August of 2024. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Sunny, warm, and dry here for the week in Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at your forecast update. It is a wide open weather window this week. We are looking at temperatures well above normal, averaging in the upper 70s to the mid-80s all the way through. No threat of moisture whatsoever. We had been watching the remains of a tropical system trying to back in across the Appalachians, with the fact that Umberto is now a Category 5 hurricane and pulling out to sea. I think it pulls the second storm a little bit farther to the east as well, and so I am not concerned about any cloud cover at midweek coming in as an offshoot of that. We're just wide open on harvest with sunshine, high evaporation, and well above normal temperatures. We get into the weekend. There's going to be some moisture trying to line out over the upper Midwest and through the UP into parts of Ontario. None of it can make a run at us down here. Monday, Tuesday of next week, sunny, a little bit more humid, maybe a few more clouds around, but I'm not concerned about big moisture. I guess I will say at this point, overnight Tuesday night into very early Wednesday morning, maybe keep an eye out for an isolated or renegade shower, but I don't think we can really see much moisture hold together here at all. Behind that, we're dry then for the rest of Wednesday, next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overnight Sunday night into Monday, the 12th into the 13th. We've got a frontal boundary that's going to be building to our west, trying to come through. I'm going to look for about 75 to 80% coverage with rain and thunderstorms at 1/4 to 1 inch. That's going to be across Ohio as we start off the week of the 13th, Sunday night into Monday the 13th. Behind it, though, looks like we go right back to dry weather. Not a lot standing in the way of a good harvest start here over most of Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Powered by Soy Biodiesel. Tomorrow, I will head to the Farm Credit Mid-America office at Washington Courthouse. And looking back to livestock last week, from Friday to Friday, livestock futures scored the following changes. October cattle were down $1.77. December live cattle down $1.42. Now, October feeder cattle were up $2.90. November feeder cattle up $3.55. October lean hogs were up $3.53. December lean hogs up $3.43. December corn was down 2 cents, and March corn down 3 cents. Now, Friday's cold storage report shared that total red meat supplies in freezers were down 2% from the previous month, down 7% from last year. Total pounds of beef in freezers were down 1% from last month, but up 2% from a year ago. Frozen pork supplies were down 3% from last month and down 13% from last year. The stocks of pork bellies were down 25% from last month and down 8% from a year ago. And soybean farmer leaders were in Houston September 24th in order to present a ceremonial check in the amount of $275,000 to the Andersons Incorporated for their expansion project at the Port of Houston. Once completed in the first quarter of 26, the expansion will enable the export of soybean meal from the facility. By investing in this project, soybean farmer leaders are addressing several major priorities in the soybean industry: increasing soybean meal export capacity, increasing resilience of the supply chain, and diversifying international markets. Additional details in the increasing resilience of supply chain. Given the continued challenges the soybean industry has experienced with low water conditions on the Mississippi River, it is important to promote diversity of the supply chain by spreading the eggs across more baskets. The soybean meal that will be shipped to the facility at Port of Houston will be transported via BNSF Railway or Union Pacific Railroad. It will not utilize inland waterway systems. Also, diversifying international markets, given the significant challenges confronting soybean exports due to the curtailment of the Chinese market, it's imperative to pursue base hit marketing opportunities for soybean meal and soybeans. The identified markets for the Houston Export Terminal are the Middle East, North Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and Asia. The funding provided by soybean farmers will be used for research, analysis, pre-engineering, and design expenses associated with the facility expansion at the Port of Houston. The Andersons, the owners of the facility, will assume all the cost of the actual construction. Stay tuned, back with more after this.
Ohio's beef farms run on the protein-packed punch of soybeans. Across the United States, beef operations consume the equivalent of 55 million bushels of soybean meal annually. Soy meal delivers the energy and essential nutrients that help produce top quality beef for your table. From soybean fields to plates everywhere, soybeans power the farms that feed families. This message brought to you by the Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org. The U.S. Department of Agriculture will provide $480 million to make America safer, stronger, and more prosperous and strengthen global food security through its two premier international food assistance programs, being the McGovern-Dole and Food for Progress. These programs rely on support of American farmers, ranchers, and producers who generously share their bounty with the world and open key markets for American businesses. For the McGovern-Dole International Food for Education and Child Nutrition Program, USDA is providing $240 million in fiscal year 25 funds to purchase U.S. commodities to support 6 projects in 5 countries. The Food for Progress USDA is providing $240 million in fiscal year 25 funds to purchase U.S. commodities to support 8 projects in 6 countries. An example of how the program would work, the Food for Progress implementing organizations would sell 361,000 metric tons of U.S. grown commodities, a 12% increase over 2024 in foreign markets, and use the proceeds to provide critical support to remove trade barriers, increase imports of crops for agricultural inputs for American businesses, and ensure market access for American products to Colombia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Vietnam, Nigeria, and Nepal. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information of your beans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Now with today's analysis, here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finishing the week last week on a little bit of a whimper on a Friday. Yes, there was some green on the screen, but nothing to get anybody too super excited out there. As we moved through the weekend and get started on this week's trade, here's what we're talking about. Volume dropped off to close out the week last Friday as we wait for the quarterly grain stocks report that comes out on Tuesday. We'll also see the small grains summary there as well. The unknown of these quarterly reports is whether the USDA will make an unexpected adjustment to feed and residual category in corn. Now, you can say, well, Ryan, we should know how much feed that we have. Well, yeah, that's the thing. But the reason that we can't track it or why it's such a wild card is because we can't really track this the way we track exports or other supply and demand factors. Honestly, USDA seems to use this as a way to justify holes in the balance sheet. Call feed and residual the fudge factor of USDA when it comes to these reports, and it's not specifically linked to how many animals we are feeding. Now, ideally, you'd look at the fact that cattle on feed down, hogs on feed down over the past quarter at a minimum. You should be able to say that number is a shortfall expected to meet feed demand, but by that logic, you could probably pencil in about 200 million more bushels lower on feed usage and see an increase of similar number in ending stocks. But it's all conjecture at this point. The estimates are what we're seeing right now. The average trade guess on corn for the quarterly grain stocks report, 1.337 billion. Soybeans, 323 million. The range on corn is 1.26 to 1.45. The range on beans, 295 to 360. Now, as we take a look forward, the next thing we need to pay attention to is the potential for a government shutdown. The deadline to pass a funding bill and avoid a shutdown is going to be Tuesday at midnight. Over the past 50 years, 21 shutdowns, averaging a duration of 8 days, the most recent being the longest at 35 days. As we take a look at that, this could be a big story going forward, not necessarily on anything that happens in agriculture that we're talking about right now, but it's more about reports. You could end up with weekly export sales, crop progress, slaughter inspections, all of that stuff stopping, WASDE, all of it as well. That's what's going to be the wild card here. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, December corn down 3/4 at 4.21 1/4 cent. March 4.38 down 3/4, and May down 1/4 cent at 4.47 3/4. November soybeans down 3 1/4 at $10.10 1/2. January down 3 1/2 at $10.29 1/2, and March is down 3 1/4 at $10.45 3/4. Not much action showing on wheat. You got to go clear out to September of 26 to get a trend. That's down 1 1/2 at 5.72 1/2. In livestock on Friday, October cattle down 25 cents at 231.80. December was unchanged at 234.30, and February was up 45 cents at 236.50. October lean hogs up $1.40 at $101.50. December up $2.42 at $91.05. And February, $92.17, up $2.25. November feeder cattle up $2.25 at $354.47. January up $1.87 at $347.82. And March is up $1.72 at $343 even. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.